U.S. will default by June 1st, increasing the debt ceiling. Biden canceling historic visit may affect ties with Pacific Island states. Kyiv claims to have downed a volley of Russian hypersonic missiles. China's youth jobless rate hits a record 20.4%. Mexico's peso hits 7-year record high against US dollar. Belarus opposition told to be ready for democracy push. Germany urges China to shut secret police outposts in Berlin. NATO mulls future security guarantees for Ukraine.
Hello, I'm Wade Lee. Thank you for joining us on Funday News. It is Wednesday, May 17th, and here are your top stories. The U.S. Treasury Department reiterated on Monday that it expects to be able to pay the U.S. government's bills only through June 1st without a debt limit increase. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen confirmed in her second letter to Congress in 2 weeks that the agency will be unlikely to meet all U.S. government payments obligations by early June, triggering the first ever U.S. default. It comes a day before Biden is expected to meet U.S. Speaker Kevin McCarthy for talks, and ahead of an overseas trip for the president that starts Wednesday.
Bloomberg reported that Biden is scrapping planned stops in Australia and Papua New Guinea following his trip to Japan for the Group of Seven meeting to return for continuing negotiations with Republicans over raising the debt ceiling. The decision threatens to undermine efforts by the Biden administration to strengthen ties in the Pacific, in a bid to counter Chinese influence. But National Security Council Coordinator John Kirby said the international stakes emphasized the importance of the debt ceiling issue.
On Monday, U.S. Presidential Envoy Joseph Shen said Micronesia had agreed to renew the Compact of Free Association Agreement on May 22nd at a signing ceremony in Papua New Guinea, which originally U.S. President Joe Biden and new Micronesia President Wesley Samina both planned to attend. However, according to people familiar with the situation, Biden has canceled the planned trip. Shen said last month Washington signed a Memorandum of Understanding on future assistance with the three COFA states to provide them with a total of about $6.5 billion over 20 years.
Our target is to complete the negotiations with the U.S. by September.
Under the COFA Accords, signed in the 1980s, the U.S. retains responsibility for the defense of the nations, Micronesia, Palau and the Marshall Islands, and provides economic assistance, in return gaining exclusive access to huge strategic swaths of the Pacific. But Yun was doubtful the Marshall Islands COFA agreement could be finalized during his trip. Marshall Islanders are still plagued by health and environmental effects of the 67 U.S. nuclear bomb tests from 1946 to 1958.
On Tuesday, Ukraine said it had shot down 6 Russian hypersonic Kinzhal missiles in a single night. It was the first time Ukraine had claimed to have struck an entire volley of multiple hypersonic missiles, and if confirmed, would be a demonstration of the effectiveness of newly deployed Western air defenses. The 6 Kinzhal ballistic missiles, which travel at up to 10 times the speed of sound, were among a volley of 18 missiles Russia fired at Ukraine overnight, lighting up Kyiv with flashes and raining debris after they were blasted from the sky.
Russian Zvezda military news outlet reported Russia's defense ministry said it had destroyed a U.S.-built Patriot surface-to-air missile defense system with a Kinzhal missile. But the commander-in-chief of Ukraine's armed forces, Valery Zaluzhny, said all attacks had been successfully intercepted. Zaluzhny said his forces had intercepted the 6 Kinzhals launched from aircraft, as well as 9 caliber cruise missiles from ships in the Black Sea and 3 Iskanders fired from land.
Bloomberg reported China's youth jobless rate rose to a record 20.4% in April. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, the country's youth unemployment rate rose from 19.6% in March and toppled last summer's previous record of 19.9%, even as the overall surveyed jobless rate declined to 5.2%. NBS spokesperson Fu Linghui said at a briefing in Beijing, more effort needs to be made to stabilize and expand employment for young people.
然后去年上半年这个数据写的是全国46万家公司倒闭，现在回来真的太难了。
Bloomberg said China's youth unemployment figures are a big concern because some 11.58 million students are expected to graduate from universities and colleges this year. The rise in youth unemployment comes even after the number of working people fell by more than 41 million people over the past 3 years. According to Bloomberg, the data was among a set of disappointing figures released today showing that debt woes and a lack of private sector confidence are holding back growth.
I always needed time on my own. I never thought I'd be here.
I take your blessings with your heartaches too. It's so easy and so wonderful to know it's you.
学习，一切从今天开始。Funday 英语。
Mexico's currency flexed its muscle on Monday to reach its highest value against the US dollar in 7 years. The peso gained 0.95% on Monday to trade at 17.42 pesos per dollar, its strongest level since May 2016. Over the last few years, the Mexican currency has mostly hovered around 20 pesos per dollar, but over the past year, it holds the distinction of the currency that has gained the most against the US dollar, up nearly 11%.
Franklin Templeton portfolio manager Luis Gonzalez cited some factors as being behind the peso's latest surge, including Mexico's healthier finances, the sliding value of the greenback, and most recently, due to fears of a potential default if U.S. lawmakers do not raise the country's debt limit in order to cover already approved spending. Mexico City-based Gonzalez quipped, "Mexico has shown itself to be the least ugly person at the party, helping it attract more dance partners."
Exiled Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya told her supporters on Monday to be ready to grab any chance to turn her country into a democracy, as speculations about the health of veteran President Alexander Lukashenko swirled. Shortly after her message to supporters via Twitter, a Belarusian state news channel released a photo of Lukashenko, 68, at what was said was a military command center in what would be his first public appearance in almost a week.
Belarus state TV later broadcast a clip of Lukashenko at what it said was a Central Air Force command base. It showed him sitting in a chair talking to officers. Dressed in a military uniform, Lukashenko appeared to have a bandage on his left hand and to be short of breath at times. But speculation about his health intensified on Sunday when Lukashenko missed a ceremony in Minsk amid unconfirmed media reports that he had been hospitalized. His place was taken by Prime Minister Roman Golovchenko.
Germany has called on China to close illegal overseas police stations that the German authorities suspect are being used by the government in Beijing to control and intimidate Chinese expatriates living abroad. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Andrea Sass told reporters in Berlin on Monday that Germany has been in talks with the Chinese government since November about shutting down the operation. Sass said Beijing did acknowledge that it was running so-called service stations in Germany, which it promised to close.
German Interior Ministry spokesman Maximilian Kohl said China still maintains at least 2 mobile police stations in Germany whose activities are carefully watched by local authorities. Kohl said, "The security authorities are closely monitoring these activities as well as other activities of foreign states in Germany. And this applies in particular and especially to these overseas police stations." He added, "These are usually not fixed, stationary offices but mobile facilities."
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said on Monday that NATO leaders are discussing ways to ensure that Ukraine does not come under attack from Russia again once the war is over. But they are concerned about doing anything that might drag the organization into a wider conflict. Stoltenberg said, "We don't know how this war will end, but we do know that when it ends, it is extremely important that we are able to prevent history from repeating itself."
Stoltenberg said, "The only way to ensure that that stops is partly to ensure that Ukraine has the military strength to deter and defend against further aggression from Russia, but also to find some kind of framework to prevent President Putin from continuing to chip away at European security." But he said that, if NATO allies, and especially of course the big ones, start to issue security guarantees bilaterally to Ukraine, we are very close to Article 5. So, there's no way to find an easy solution to these issues.
Now, let's take a look at the vocabulary from the news of the U.S. defaulting by June 1st. Number 1, default, 违约. The company is in default on the loan. Number 2, obligation, 义务责任. We have a moral obligation to protect the environment. Number 3, trigger, 发动引起触发. Nuts can trigger off a violent allergic reaction. And that's it for today's Funday news. Be sure to tune into Funday news from Monday to Friday and click the link below now to join Funday for free. I'm Wade Lee, your host. I'll see you next time.